Welcome to today's episode. And today we welcome Sean to the show, where we're going to be talking about nutrition, mental health, and much, much more. So, just a quick introduction to Sean, and then I'm really looking forward to going into this conversation that we're both passionate about, and we'd love to get this over to you as a listener today. So, Sean, after surviving a massive heart attack, being 100 pounds overweight, and having brain damage, has completely healed his body and brain using what he calls keto-ish. With over 1 million followers on social media, Sean now teaches people all over the world how to become healthy. His motto is there are no obstacles that can't be overcome with the right methods. So, Sean, thank you for obviously coming on today and all the work you're doing out there and helping people with their health. Like I said, the the value of good quality nutrition for my mental health, I've noticed is a big, big, big thing in my life, rather
Yeah.
than just, the mindset work and everything like that. So yeah, obviously you went through a few things that I've just shared, and I know you shared with me, like you had a heart attack, you mentioned you being 100 pounds overweight, and then there's
Yeah.
some brain damage as well. Um, so what was the moment for you out of all those things, or maybe something else that went, right, I
Yeah.
really want to start prioritizing my health? And I guess how did you begin that with so many things you could be doing at that point?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Johnny, first of all, man, thank you for having me on. I'm so incredibly honored to be here. So thank you, brother. This is great. I checked out your podcast and I'm really impressed with you and what you do. And
Oh, thank you.
clearly you have built something incredibly substantial here. So props to you, brother. And thanks for having me on. I really genuinely appreciate it. So thank you for that. Yeah, man, Mike, here's the thing. So what a lot of people associate just weight with health and don't necessarily, because a lot of
Mm,
times when people want to lose weight, they think, oh, I got to lose weight, but they don't necessarily correlate that to how closely related that is to health overall in general. And I've always been a huge fan of a ketogenic diet, mainly because there's a lot of health benefits to a ketogenic diet. A lot of people, don't like the restrictions of it, which is why I created a program called Keto-ish, which is basically keto with healthy carbs, and it's something I get to teach people all over the world. But my journey was very interesting. I knew that I was severely overweight. I was about 100 pounds overweight, but I knew that for a while, and I kept saying I was going to do something about it. But how many of us have a problem in our lives that we keep saying we're going to do something
mm,
about, but we keep pushing it off because I'm going to fix that tomorrow, and then we never do anything about it, right? Well, life has the way of slapping us in the face sometimes, and my wake up call was a heart attack, and I walked into the hospital, Johnny, and when I walked into the hospital, I went to the hospital because I wasn't feeling good. I was really out of breath. I was feeling really dizzy, and I knew something was wrong, and something told me that something was seriously wrong, not just maybe a little wrong. And so I went to the ER, and when I walked into the hospital, I told them that I was out of breath, and the nurse on duty at the front desk called into her little microphone or whatever you call it, and asked for an EKG to come out. They bring the EKG machine out, they hook me up to it, and the next thing I know is something that none of us ever want to hear in our entire lives. But I hear the nurse loudly yelling out, "Holy shit, he's having a heart attack!" And brother, your life will flash before your eyes, man. I'm telling you, it was one of the most humbling, sobering moments of my life. I thought I was
wow.
gonna die. I mean, I literally thought I was gonna die when I heard her say that. And about an hour later, when they had everything under control, my cardiologist walked into the room. He looked at me and he said, "Had you not walked into the hospital the moment that you did, he said, if you had have walked in 30 seconds later, you'd be dead." So
Wow.
30 seconds stood in between me and death, and I will never, ever, ever forget that as long as I live. I knew that I was overweight. I knew that I needed to lose weight, and one of the things I discovered when I had my heart attack is one of the first things my cardiologist asked me. She said, "Do you drink alcohol?" And I said, "Yeah, a lot, often." And because I was a pretty heavy drinker. I drank on a daily basis almost. And it started as a social thing for me, to be honest with you. I love people. I love being around people. I go out for drinks with my friends, but then it just became a bad habit. Just became something I was doing far too much. And I didn't realize alcohol played a role in heart health, to be honest, at the time when that happened. I now know everything about it, but But even then, Johnny, even then, I still did not, I probably went about 3 weeks without drinking alcohol after my heart attack, but then I went right back at it. I was stupid. And I found out, and then years later, I found out through a relationship I have with the Amen Clinic in Los Angeles, California. Dr. Daniel Amen is a world-renowned brain
Yeah.
scientist, and I saw a post by Dr. Amen on his social media page, and it was a post. It was a scan of a gentleman whose brain they scanned who had been drinking alcohol for about 20 years. And Johnny, his entire brain was filled with holes. It's one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life. His brain was filled with holes. The brain had literally shrunk down in size. And basically, the post was Dr. Amen talking about how big of a role alcohol plays in our brain health. It plays a role in everything, but the role that played in the brain health. And I had what I call a come to Jesus moment where it's like, dude, are you going to get your shit together or not? Like it's time to get everything together or just give up and stop. And I was going to live a very low quality of life. And I decided to get my shit together basically. And I actually contacted the Amen Clinic and said, hey guys, I'm a health coach on social media. I got a pretty good following, and I would love to do a collaboration with you if you guys are interested in scanning my brain, and I'll talk about it on social media. So they agreed to the collaboration. It was amazing. And I drove out to LA and met with the team out there at the Amen Clinic and had my brain scan. And crazy thing happened when I had my brain scan, and this just speaks volumes of how important nutrition is. But when I approached the clinic about scanning my brain and doing this collaboration together on social media, they asked me a lot of questions. How long had I been drinking for? How often? And so when I gave them the honest answer to that question, Johnny, was I had been drinking for about 30 years. And I said, early on in my drinking career, I probably drank just on the weekends, but it's gotten to the point where I'm drinking most nights now, as a social thing. And so they basically said to me, hey, okay, so don't be, terrified if this scan comes back. It shows that you got some really serious brain damage because um it's all fixable. Everything's fixable. Everything's fixable. I'm gonna say that one more time. Everything is fixable.
Mm.
So often we have problems all of us have problems that we feel are not fixable. And I'll tell you, Tony Robbins said something years ago. He said, we don't lack resources, we lack resourcefulness. And that has stuck with me, Johnny, so much over the years. And I believe that everything is fixable. And even serious health issues are fixable. And most of us don't realize they're actually fixable through nutrition, not medicine. Medicine band-aids the problem. Nutrition fixes it at the root.
Mm.
And so, anyways, when they scanned my brain and I sat down with one of their doctors, he actually says to me, he goes, this is funny. He goes, before we look at this brain scan, I'm going to tell you that as soon as we saw this, we could immediately tell that you obviously exercise a lot and you eat healthy because your brain scan wasn't nearly as bad as we thought it was going to be. But I still did have some brain damage. And basically, I have gone on a journey to heal myself, and I have. And at 50 years old, I'm in the best shape I've ever been in my entire life. And that's even back when I was in my 20s and I was a personal trainer. So at 50, I'm in the best shape of my life. I'm healthier than I've ever been. And life is good. But it was not an easy journey getting here, to be honest with you, but it was a worthwhile journey getting here. And so anyone that is facing struggles, the journey is not going to be easy, but it's worth it. It's worth it. Your
Mm.
life depends on it. Literally, your life depends on it, right?
Mm. Okay. It's great to hear you did the brain scan. I've got his program as well, the Dr. Amen sort of
Oh,
like
you do? Okay.
yeah, the brain health stuff, and I'm gonna recap it again actually, but it's yeah, very powerful stuff with those
Yeah.
scans. And some of like my mentor Joseph, who I was just speaking to before this, who collaborated with him, but he was saying he had his he did a brain scan with Dr. Abed as well, and it's really funny from how
Yeah.
looking after himself, even though various stories and attacks had happened when he was younger, that
Yeah.
it was a healthy brain just from that nutrition and that exercise, that he'd been looking after himself for decades, and it healed the
Yeah.
brain from being beaten up when he was younger. It's
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah, it's wild, man. If you go to, I mean, if you watch through, if you scroll through Dr. Amen's feed on Instagram, you'll see countless stories of people whose brain was just completely
Mm,
disseminated, but yet through just proper nutrition and exercise, it healed their entire brain. And that's it. That's the same for our entire body. So I healed my heart with food. I lost the weight. I lost 100 pounds using the right foods. And so here's the thing, man. We live in a convenience. convenience trumps health for most people, and that's a very sad reality. And so
Mm.
convenience is going through McDonald's or Burger King or Taco Bell or Chick-fil-A. Convenience is going to the grocery store and buying the frozen meal or the bag of Doritos or the Oreo. That's convenience, right? But all of those convenience foods are slowly killing us. And so, and most of us, here's the thing, Johnny. Most of us understand in theory that junk food is bad for us, right? Like I think we would all agree to that. Like if you say, hey, is eating Oreos good for you? No, of course it's not good. Is eating Doritos good for you? No, of course it's not good for you. We all know it's not good for us, but what I don't think most people know is all of those foods are actually loaded with very harmful chemicals. And there's a very long list I could rattle off, but processed foods are the most dangerous food that anyone could put in their body. And there's a very small amount of processed foods that are actually good for you. Like if I go to a grocery store, I could pick out the bag of potato chips that is made with just potatoes, salt, and avocado oil, right? Though that is the healthiest version of that. But then there's most of them where if and here's a standard rule of thumb I tell people: if you flip over whatever you're going to eat and read the ingredients, and if you can't pronounce half the ingredients that are on there, those are
It's not a good
chemicals
sign.
that are literally right. Those are chemicals that are literally killing you. If it has more than 4 or 5 ingredients, it's junk. Don't get it. Real food should have no more than 2, 3, 4, maybe at the most ingredients go. That's real food. So I'll give you a great example, right? I posted this on my social media the other day. The Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich has 55 ingredients in it. One sandwich has 55 ingredients. So what the hell is a chicken sandwich got to have in it? There's 55 ingredients, right? It's chicken and bread and breading, right? But a Chick-fil-A
Wow.
chicken sandwich has 55 ingredients because it's all chemicals. It's all
Mm.
chemicals. These companies are using chemicals as a cheap way to preserve the food. That's what they're doing. They're using chemicals as a cheap way to preserve the food, and the government's not regulating it here in the United States. They're getting away with it. We have an epidemic here in the United because you're in the UK, right,
Yeah.
Johnny?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're in the UK. So we have this, and you guys don't have this problem because you guys are smart enough to actually ban these ingredients, unlike us geniuses
Not
here over in the United
necessarily.
States that say,
Yeah.
oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
really? Oh, wow. Okay, okay.
Mm.
Well, the problem we have here is that nothing. It's kind of the Wild West over here, where everything and anything goes. And so we have this huge epidemic now where the weed killer Roundup is sneaking into kids' foods all over the place, all over the place. I mean, it's in the number one food that has the Roundup weed killer in it is Cheerios, and then Oreos are second. But well, it's all about equal to be honest with you. But Cheerios, I'm going to name off some of the most popular foods: Cheerios, Oreos, Cheez-Its, Goldfish crackers, almost all store-bought bread, Quaker oatmeal. All that stuff now has extremely high amounts of weed killer in it because they're just allowing these food manufacturing companies to do what they want and not putting any regulations on them whatsoever. And the foods that I just said, brother, little kids are eating that stuff. I mean, parents give their little babies Cheerios and Goldfish crackers.
Mm.
So it's just this huge. It's an epidemic, but it's one that we have to take seriously because our health is deteriorating so much. I mean, I can only speak for here in the United States, but obesity rates in America are higher than they've ever been in the history of the world. And it's because we are paying less and less attention to what we're eating. We're not prioritizing that. We'll go out and we'll take a pill. We'll go to our doctor and we'll get a pill, but the pill is just a band-aid to the problem. It's only going to get worse if you don't address the root cause. It's like any problem in our life, right? If you don't address the root cause of the problem, you're just going to band-aid the problem and it's never going to go away. And that's just why I'm so passionate about nutrition.
Yeah, absolutely. No, there's definitely issues out there with health. So
Yeah,
appreciate people like you bringing it to the world.
absolutely.
We've talked about thing. So we've touched a little bit on it. You've touched on it briefly, but just wanted to go a little bit more into the emotional side, or the mental health
Oh,
side
yes.
connected to the nutrition. Because
Yeah.
for you, you said that heart attack, and I'm so glad that you got there when you did, and you're here
Yeah.
today, and then you had that you've gone through a weight loss journey and the physical side. But yeah, for you, it'd be really interesting to hear like the differences as you've gone through like your nutritional journey in your
Yeah.
emotional state, and actually how much of a role nutrition plays in our emotions for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the funny thing, Johnny, is so I have battled depression and anxiety a lot over the years. But
Mm.
here's the thing. It's a lot of it, to be quite honest with you, brother, it's been my own fault. But I didn't necessarily realize it was my own fault at the time. I mean, I think a lot of us understand in theory that alcohol is a depressant, but we don't what we don't understand is the science behind it and what alcohol actually does when it gets into our brain. And it literally creates it destroys alcohol destroys our brain. And I don't say that lightly, and I'm not exaggerating. Literally, I mean, you can go to Dr. Amon's page and look at the brain scans of people that have been drinking alcohol, and you can see the scans of these people's brains. They destroyed their brains with alcohol, and I think a lot of us don't know we're destroying our brain with alcohol. But I had this moment, Johnny, a while back where I remember I was sitting on my bed and I literally had spent the whole weekend in bed because I was so depressed. I didn't even want to get out of bed.
Mm.
And I was just so depressed. And I saw that brain scan that Dr. Amen posted, and he specifically said that the reason for that severity of the brain scan was because of alcohol use. And I just had this moment where I was like, okay, like this is what. And but here's the other thing: it's so much more than just the brain too, because what many of us do not understand is that. So I remember growing up and hearing people talk about depression a lot, and I know my mom dealt with depression as a kid, and I often heard people talking about depression being a chemical imbalance, and it is a chemical imbalance in the brain, but what most people don't know, Johnny, is where those chemicals are made. Those chemicals that are the chemicals that are in balance in our body are dopamine and serotonin. Well, dopamine and serotonin are made in the stomach, the gut or the stomach, and they are transported to the brain. So every single thing that you put in your body, whether it's food or drink, or even products that you're putting on your skin, because that gets into your bloodstream,
Mm.
every single thing impacts our gut health. And if you are not prioritizing your gut health, you will be anxious and depressed all the time because you're putting stuff in your body that is literally not only is the stuff most people are eating, Johnny, not producing any of those feel good chemicals, it's literally shutting down the body's ability to make those chemicals. So when you drink alcohol, when you consume sugar, when you eat processed foods, all of that stuff is creating the perfect environment in the body that is completely shutting down the body's ability to make dopamine and serotonin. And if you are shutting down your body's ability to produce dopamine and serotonin, you are going to feel like absolute shit all of the time. And a lot of us, and me included, Johnny, I drink alcohol because I was self-medicating my anxiety and depression. I convinced myself it made me feel better. It made me feel better in the moment, but then I felt like absolute shit afterwards, right? So, and we all do. Whenever any of us drink too much alcohol the next day, we're hungover. It feels terrible, right? So, it was just this very, very, very profound moment for me when I realized that my mental health was actually my fault, but I didn't know it at the time. Right? I didn't know that every single thing I put in my body impacted my mental health. Even the stuff we put on our skin, ladies who put lotion on their face and sunscreen and perfumes and all this stuff, everything. What we don't realize is everything we put on our skin, if you're putting it on your skin, it's immediately absorbed into the bloodstream. So it's not even just what you eat that you're intentionally putting in your body. It's also the stuff you're putting on your body that's getting into your bloodstream and it's affecting your health. And here in America, we're seeing rapid rises of cancer rates, and a lot of these cancer rates are the food and the things that people are putting on their skin that they just don't realize are causing that. And I so passionately talk about this on social media because I just want people to know. And when you know, that's up to you what you do. But I can't, obviously I can't force people to change, nor do I have any intention of trying to do that. We all get to live our own lives. It's our free choice. But I want to educate people so that they know. And I am very passionate about the mental health issue because at one point in my life, I was severely, severely depressed. And now I know the cure. I know the cure. I know how to fix it. And nothing makes me happier, Johnny, when I have someone come to me that said, I have been so depressed for years. I don't know how to fix it. I don't know what to do. I've tried everything. And when they realize it's just a few simple dietary changes that they can make, and they tell me that for the first time in their life, they're actually happy and joyful again. Oh my God, brother. Like, I can't tell you what that does for me, and I've taught people how to use food to reverse cancer, diabetes, heart disease, you name it. So, I'm very grateful that I get to do what I do. And when people listen to me and make those changes, they see their lives change, and nothing makes me happier than that. So, yeah.
That's amazing. I think from mine experience to share, like I remember like being really anxious and like being
Yeah,
having really high anxiety, and I remember just talking to my like loved ones around me, and obviously concerned for you, very fortunate that, but theirs was like
yeah,
go to the doctor, and it was just like some of these pills, and it'd like temporarily make me feel, oh, like for a moment, or I could a little
yeah,
bit okay, but then it would like come back, and I realized
yeah,
that actually, I was drinking quite a lot, I was eating quite a lot of sugar, and actually making
yeah,
those
yeah,
changes. There's some mind stuff as well in the way I was thinking about situations, of course, but
yeah, yeah.
it was there's a big shift. I don't even need those things anymore, so I can't recommend to
That's
anyone what to do.
exactly.
But it was just
Yeah,
that's my experience there. It was just like take the thing that's going to put a band-aid on it rather than actually these deeper
yeah.
things. But again, that's just my own experience. So yeah.
What was it for you, Johnny, when you realized you did? Because I love what you just said that you didn't need it anymore. Because that's I say that all the time. I'm like, because I can hang out. I can literally. I've gotten to the point now where I can literally hang out in a bar with my friends and have no interest in drinking alcohol because it doesn't even interest me anymore. But it was really a profound moment for me when I didn't realize it. What was that journey like for you, brother? I'd love to know that.
For me, like, well, for me, in terms of that was just like a moment when I just realised there's quite a lot. I was taking perhaps not the right food and drink. Admittedly, I will have
Yeah,
a drink now, but it's not like it used to be terrible in my twenties.
yeah,
It
yeah.
was, yeah, a lot of
Me
like
too, brother.
hangover,
Me too.
yeah, feeling like really down the next day and things like that. And
Yeah,
just giving myself a
yeah,
break kind of really make like breaks gave me a really big difference. So I could have it like
yeah,
healthily. But
yeah,
again, I know some people, like you said, you just hang out and have none, and we've all got different situations. But yeah, for me, it was just
yeah,
like the realization and then just reflecting on it. It was,
yeah.
yeah,
That's awesome, man. Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a very profound moment when you realize that you don't actually need all the shit that you're putting in your body that you've convinced yourself you need. Like I have to have this. I love this. And that's the funny thing, Johnny. So with the food thing, a lot of my clients come to me for coaching. When I'm talking them through this stuff, they say to me, "Oh, but man, I really want this. I love this." Okay, that's great. I get that you love this, but do you not think that there is some alternative out there that you're going to also love that is
mm,
not nearly as bad for you? And that's what I try to. There's alternatives to everything, and I have a lot of people that come to me. They're addicted to sugar, and I get it because I've never been a big sugar person, but I've had people in my life that are, and I like it too. But when I realized that when I put the sugar in my body, here's the thing with sugar, right? Sugar is the number one cause of cancer. And that's another thing a lot of people do because cancer cells in the body, and this is what I mean when I say that. Okay, so I approach health from a very scientific aspect. In fact, my entire program was originally created with between myself and a guy who was a research scientist out of the University of Florida.
mm,
And him and I sat down and said, okay, let's talk about the science behind this. What is the science behind how our bodies work, how we need to eat to restore and rejuvenate our bodies, for our mental health, for our weight, for our heart. And so, what a lot of people don't realize is that we all have cancer cells in our body. No one is reclusive from having cancer cells in our body. We all have them in our body. But what most people don't realize is every time you eat sugar, what you're doing is you're saying, let's create a perfect environment in my body for these cancer cells to grow. Because cancer cells in the body, so if you got a little cancer cell in your body, I'll kind of give you a visual analogy. If you have a cancer cell in your body, and then you eat sugar. So now the sugar is in the body right here, right? As soon as the cancer cell sees the sugar, the cancer cell opens up and it takes in the sugar molecule into the cancer cell, and then now it grows the cancer cell. So as soon as cancer cell sees sugar, it eats the sugar, and the cancer cell now grows. And so every time we do that, we are continually growing those cancer cells. And so that's another reason why I'm very passionate about that because I just tell people like, so when a sugar addict comes to me, I just walk them through the process of, okay, let's talk through this. Like, why do you think you really need this? Have you considered alternatives? Most people have never considered alternatives. And there's some very good alternatives out there. We are very adamant. I mean, we'll eat sweets once in a while, but when we do, we're going to make that sugar-free recipe, right? That's actually still delicious, but maybe it takes a little bit more effort to make than grabbing the bag of Doritos. But if I can be around 20 years longer and and it's not even just about living longer, because I don't know, the older you get, I don't think I even really think about that anymore. But what I do think about is the quality of life and how I want to feel. And, just the other day, my girlfriend made a comment to me. She was saying how when she was she's a nurse, and has worked with elderly patients in nursing homes. And she said that the patients that she sees in the nursing home that have Alzheimer's, get this, man, and Alzheimer's, by the way, Alzheimer's and dementia is now classified as type 3 diabetes, for those that don't know, because Alzheimer's and dementia is completely caused by insulin resistance in the brain, which is excessive sugar consumption. So Alzheimer's and dementia is now considered type 3 diabetes. But what broke my heart is what she said to me is when she goes in the room of the patients that have Alzheimer's and dementia, guess what their families are bringing them?
Oh yeah,
A bunch of snacks, sugar.
chocolate.
So she'll walk into their room, she told me, and there's piles of candy in the room, and they're the ones that have the Alzheimer's and dementia. I'm like, oh my God. But it's like, a friend of mine, her sister had cancer a couple years ago, and I remember she told me this one time. She's like, "Oh man, this is so sweet. Her husband just came home and brought her 2 gallons of ice cream." I looked at her. I said, "Are you freaking kidding me? She has cancer and she's eating like." So again, it's just, I know this stuff and I realize people don't, and that's why I share it with people, because if you're doing this stuff, it's just really, really bad news.
Mm. Wow, you've certainly done, certainly like no done a lot of the research on there.
Oh
On
yeah,
all
yeah.
these things. You
I've
love
studied
this
this stuff
stuff.
obsessively, to be honest with you,
I
brother.
love it. It's fascinating.
Well, I do it for those who I love
Love,
that
yeah.
are immediately around me, but and for my family, but then also for my friends. But now, I believe that I believe that when we have a platform, that we have an obligation to use that platform to better those around us. And so I don't, I'm very blessed to have the following that I have on social media, but to me, it's not just, have fun and get attention. It's no, let's impact these people's lives, and let's see let's use my knowledge to help them transform their lives. And that's why I study this stuff so obsessively. And I sit around in bed watching YouTube videos of scientists and stuff, because I'm always wanting to learn more and to get more knowledge. And I love to share it with people. So yeah, good stuff, man.
That's amazing. So, like, for the individual who's like, "Oh, I really want to improve my health," but it's just there's so much stuff out there, and
Yeah.
it could be a little bit overwhelming with anything sort of in today's
Yeah.
age. But they're like, maybe physically they're not in the shape that they ideally want to be, or maybe they're like, "Oh, what Sean's been talking about today, yeah, my emotions could be like I really want to work on myself emotionally, and I know probably
Yeah.
my diet might be impacting that from what I've heard. Like, how
Yeah.
can you work through that kind of like overwhelm of information? What would be your guidance for someone just looking to really improve their health
Sure.
but don't know where to start?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked that question, because that is really the crux of my entire message, and
Mm,
that is three very simple words, Johnny: eat real food. It all boils down to that, and that's the
mm,
biggest mistake we're making. Again, we have put our health we have sacrificed our health for the sake of convenience, and we go around eating these convenience foods all the time. And so the solution to everyone's problems is very simply to eat real. I say that, and to me, that makes absolutely perfect sense, and is a no-brainer. But a lot of people say to me, "Well, Sean, what's real food?" So, and if you're asking that question, I'm not surprised. That's part of the problem, because we live in a day and age where do we even really know what real food is? So,
mm.
real food is the stuff God gave us in nature, right? So, it's meat, it's fish, it's vegetables, it's fruit, it's whole grains. It's all the stuff God has given us in nature. Now, we as human beings have bastardized all that, and we've created very bad versions of all that stuff. But the bottom line is just simply this, Johnny, is yes, there's a ton of information out there. There's keto, there's paleo, there's Whole 30, there's all these things. I don't give a damn about any diet. Keto's not the end all. I'm a huge fan of keto, because a ketogenic diet has been shown in scientific studies to reverse cancer and diabetes in millions and millions of people. There's nothing that you can utilize that will burn fat faster in the body than a ketogenic diet, mainly because a ketogenic diet tricks the body into using stored fat for fuel instead of glucose, because you're not putting sugar in the body all the time. So the body has nothing to burn for stored fat or nothing to burn for energy or fuel other than stored fat. So that's why keto is so great. So I lost 100 pounds in less than 4 months following a
Wow.
ketogenic diet, and that's how fast the ketogenic diet works. So I talk about this a lot because I know it's healthy, but I also know that if people follow this plan in a very short amount of time, they can lose their weight. So for someone who's been unhealthy and overweight a lot of their lives, that person probably doesn't have a whole heck of a lot of a motivation to stick to something for a whole year. So do keto for 30 days and drop 30, 40 pounds in just a month. And you're going to be like, oh my God, you're going to feel better. You're going to look better than you have in ages. And you're going to be just a lot more motivated. So that's why I'm a fan of that. But it's not the end all be all. I mean, and I'm not against eating carbs. And that's why I created keto-ish, because I'm not against eating carbs, because carbs have been bastardized by the keto people, but unfairly so, because there's a lot of good carbs. Now there's a lot of junk carbs, but there's good protein and there's bad protein too. So that's why I say there's good and bad versions of everything. So there's very good carbs out there. We should not ever eat carbs. To me, that's dumb. But I love the ketogenic diet mainly because of that. But when it comes to all the other stuff, it all boils down to just eating real food. So meat, fish, vegetables, fruit. But we want to go for all the crap that's on the shelves, right? And that's the processed food that is literally slowly killing us. And it's what people got to stay away from. And I realize that most people are not going to go cold turkey off this stuff. For those watching Johnny right now that are saying, man, I hear what this guy Sean's saying, but dude, I've been eating this stuff my whole life. Take baby steps. Cut out one thing. Commit to cutting down for a week on processed foods for you and your family. Commit to cutting down for a week and build on that. But I always tell people, take baby steps. You're not going to get there overnight. I'm not asking you to cut out everything you've been doing that you love, but ask yourself a question, because this is the thing people often say, Johnny. They say to me, well, I don't want to cut that out because I love that. All right, well, you're not going to love sitting in a hospital bed, having the doctor look at you and telling you have a month to live, right? So it's like we don't take our future self as seriously enough, because I don't think we think about that. We think we're so wrapped up in the moment. I want to feel good now. I want to be happy now. I want to feel good now. And we make very poor choices based on solely thinking about how we want to feel in the moment rather than how we want to feel down the road. You know what I mean? And so, regret weighs, as Jim Rohn said, discipline weighs ounces, regret weighs tons, and it does. And I came face to face with that when I walked in the hospital and found out I was 30 seconds from dying, because that was a very regretful thing for me, and I've had to go the rest of my life knowing that I caused that. But now I fixed it.
But you're empowering yourself now to knowing that your health is
just
down.
Eat real food, guys. Just eat real food. That's
eat real food. Love it. So Sean, I know you've got a ton more value on this subject, and there's so many resources you're providing, so much guidance. So as we kind of wrap things up today, it'd be really useful to hear where the listener can find more from you.
Sure. I mean, I post a ton, and I mean a ton of free content on social media. I want to make this information available to everyone. So sure, I got paid programs, but I have a ton of free content on social media. On Facebook, I'm just Sean Christopher on Facebook. They can find me. You'll see my before and after weight loss picture on there. On Instagram and TikTok, I am the Sean Christopher. And then I have a free ebook that everyone watching or listening rather can download, and it's called How to Lose 30 Pounds in 30 Days. The website to download that free ebook, Johnny, is just lose30poundseasy.com. Again, lose30poundseasy.com, and they can grab that free ebook. And it's not just any free ebook, because most free stuff is kind of shit and it doesn't really give a lot of valuable information. But in my free ebook, I teach people the exact step-by-step method, Johnny, that I use to lose 100 pounds in only 4 months. So if you're serious about taking control of your health and you're someone who needs to lose weight, grab that free ebook. It'll teach you everything you need to know. That's exactly what I did to lose it. And if you need extra help, I do offer coaching, so they can reach out to me and say, help.
Amazing, Sean. I love it. Thank you for all of that.
Absolutely.
So be sure to link that up. So once again, Sean, a big thank you for coming on today.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. It's a really good time. Thanks, Johnny.
Awesome. So that concludes our episode for today. And remember to lead with your heart and not with fear.